All right, so today we're diving into some pretty interesting territory. A lot of you probably familiar with Aaron Abke, who presents himself as this kind of spiritual teacher.
Right, yeah, he's gotten quite a following.
Yeah, and he talks a lot about like escaping the matrix and not becoming an NPC, which is a non-playing character, like just blindly following a script.
Yeah, the idea is that most people are just kind of going through the motions, not really aware.
But here's the thing, right? What if in the process of like pointing the finger and saying, hey, everyone else is an NPC, what if Abke has actually kind of fallen into that trap himself?
That's the irony that we're going to kind of unpack today. And it really gets to the core of like what true enlightenment might actually be about.
I like that. So how does Abke even like frame this whole NPC thing? Like what's his basis for this?
Well, a big part of his teaching revolves around this idea of a lost Hebrew Gospel of Matthew.
Okay, I've heard a little bit about this, but I'm not super familiar.
Yeah, so he suggests that this lost gospel, if we had it, it would emphasize inner divinity and like a more personal connection to the divine instead of the hierarchy and control that we see in the like later Greek versions of the Gospel of Matthew that we have today.
So he's saying there's like a hidden, more empowering message that's been lost to history.
Exactly. And, historically speaking, it's not as out there as it might sound. When you consider the context, right, the Roman Empire adopting Christianity,
Yeah.
it makes sense that they might want a version that kind of reinforces their existing power structure.
Right, like a hierarchical religion is way easier to control than one where everyone feels like they have direct access to God.
Exactly. So these earlier gospels, assuming they existed, they might have been pushing this message of like individual empowerment, like I said, direct connection to the divine.
Which would have been pretty threatening to the powers that be.
For sure. And throughout history, we've seen how, new ruling powers often eliminate texts that don't fit their narrative.
So it makes you wonder, right? Like, what if the Christianity we know today is like a heavily edited version of the original message?
That's a huge question, and it's something that Wes, a scholar who defends the Greek texts, he grapples with this. From a historical perspective, he's right. The Greek versions are the oldest, most documented versions we have. He's dedicated to accuracy. He's not trying to mislead anyone.
Right.
But he might be, unknowingly limited by the very system that could have manipulated the original teachings.
That's really interesting. And it kind of brings us back to Abke, right? Because he's claiming to have accessed this like lost knowledge, this deeper truth. But at the same time, he's built this whole persona around being a spiritual guru. You see him promoting himself on social media, building this following.
Right, selling courses.
Yeah, exactly. So it kind of makes you wonder, if he's achieved this higher level of awareness, why the need for all the self-promotion?
Yeah, that's a key point because genuine spirituality, true enlightenment, it doesn't require an audience. In fact, it often thrives in silence, in stillness, away from all the noise of the world.
It seems almost like he's unintentionally recreated a new hierarchy with himself at the top, right? Like he's the enlightened teacher.
Exactly, and that brings us to the heart of this kind of NPC paradox. By labeling others as NPCs, as those blindly following a script Abke has, without realizing it, kind of written himself into a new script, one where he's the enlightened leader, guiding everyone else out of the matrix.
Whoa.
And that's where things get really interesting.
I can't wait to dive into that more. So we'll be back right after this break.
Yeah, it's like, you'd think that if someone is claiming to have like broken free from the matrix, that they would be more aware of those kinds of like patterns and dynamics.
Right.
But it's almost like he's fallen into that trap himself.
Exactly. And what's really revealing is how Abke responds to criticism, in his rebuttal videos.
You see this defensive posture, this need to be right, which seems to contradict the very enlightenment that he claims to embody.
It's fun you should mention that because when I was watching some of his videos, I definitely got a sense of like a lack of humility.
Yeah.
I was almost like this, I've got it figured out and you poor souls are still stuck in the illusion kind of a vibe.
It's that, smugness disguised as humility that's so interesting. True divinity doesn't need to defend itself or put others down.
Right.
It just radiates its own light. Think about it like if the sun doesn't need to like announce its brilliance. It just shines.
I like that. That's a good analogy.
And it highlights that, that crucial difference between true enlightenment and just like adopting a new belief system or a new persona.
Totally. So how do we avoid falling into this trap? Like, how do we avoid labeling others and becoming NPCs ourselves, especially in the world of spirituality where there's all these different paths and teachings?
That's where discernment comes in, right? It's about questioning everything, including our own assumptions and beliefs.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, it's about being willing to look within and see where we might be clinging to labels, to ideas of separation.
So it's not about blindly following someone else's path, but like forging our own with awareness.
Exactly. And if someone is telling you that you're an NPC, that you're asleep and they're awake, that's a big red flag.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're reinforcing that very illusion that needs to be transcended on the path to genuine awakening.
And it makes me think about all those people who are drawn to Abke's teachings. Like they're genuinely seeking truth. They're seeking a way to break free from what they perceive as the limitations of their lives.
Yeah, and it's understandable why people are drawn to those kinds of promises,
Right.
but it's crucial to remember that true spiritual growth is an inner journey. It's about cultivating your own awareness, not handing over your power to someone else, no matter how charismatic or convincing they may seem.
Yeah, it's about recognizing the inherent wisdom and divinity within each of us.
Exactly. And this brings us to a really crucial point that we want to leave you with today. If you truly seek enlightenment, be wary of anyone who labels others as NPCs.
It's like you're creating the very separation you're like trying to escape from.
Right.
You're basically trapping yourself in a new game
Exactly.
with a new set of rules.
Yeah, it's almost like you're looking through this distorted lens
Mhm.
where everyone else appears as this like flat, one-dimensional character,
Right.
and you miss out on all the richness and the complexity
Of their inner worlds, yeah.
Exactly. The unique spark of divinity that resides within, each and every being.
It reminds me of that saying, when you point a finger at someone, there's three fingers pointing back at you.
Right, exactly. Such a powerful image, and it really highlights, the importance of self-reflection on the spiritual path.
Totally.
Are we projecting our own unconscious patterns onto others?
Right.
Are we clinging to these labels and judgments that prevent us from seeing the full picture?
It's so easy to get caught up in those mental constructs.
It really is.
Especially like in the spiritual world.
Especially in the spiritual world where they're often presented in these frameworks that seem appealing.
Yeah, and so maybe the real game changer isn't about, escaping some imaginary matrix.
Right.
But it's about like embracing the fullness of reality.
Exactly.
With all of its complexities and contradictions.
It's about recognizing that we're all in this together.
Yeah.
We're all, playing our unique roles in this grand cosmic drama.
And letting go of the need to label and judge.
Exactly. That's where the true freedom lies.
So as our listeners continue on their spiritual journeys, what questions should we leave them with today?
I think the most important question is, am I seeking genuine understanding?
Ooh.
Or just another system to follow?
I like that.
Am I looking for true connection?
Yeah.
Or just another label to wear?
That's good. Because the path to enlightenment isn't about achieving some like higher state.
Right.
It's about realizing we already are whole.
We're already connected.
We're already divine.
Exactly.
And sometimes the greatest wisdom is found not in seeking answers, but embracing the mystery.
The unknown.
The unknown.
That's where the adventure begins.
That's beautiful. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into the world of Aaron Abke and the NPC paradox. We hope this has sparked some introspection, some questioning, and maybe even a little laughter along the way. Until next time, keep seeking, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.